All right, a Fox Business Alert now. Monthly job numbers out. The December unemployment rate, get this, has fallen to 6.7%, down from 7 in November. However, employers only added 74,000 jobs, the fewest in 3 years. What do you conclude with that?
Well, let's talk to John Roberts. He's sitting in for Chris Wallace this weekend. So, John, it's kind of a good news, bad news thing. The good news is the number is now 6.7%, but the bad news is so few jobs were added because people are simply dropping out. They're not finding jobs, they're not working, and instead they're probably going on unemployment.
Well, good morning, Steve, Brian, and Elizabeth. I think what you got here, Steve, if I could mildly correct you, is bad news and more bad news. 74,000 jobs is just not the number of jobs to be created every month that this country needs to get people back to work, to break this cycle of poverty that we've been in for 50 years. And the fact that it's only 6.7% because so many people left the workforce, that the labor participation rate is down even further than it was. I think really it's kind of bad news all around. Politically, it looks good. Yeah. It gives the president a chance to say, hey, the unemployment rate came down 0.3%. But when you look at the numbers behind the drop, it's bad.
Yeah, but the thing is, how does the president go out there, continue to say we need 99 weeks of unemployment insurance, we need that extra 3 months, we need even more than that, at the same time say the economy's getting better, the growth is great, and unemployment's down?
No, I think this is an indication, Brian, that the economy is not as good as many people thought that it was, and it will be interesting to see the way that the markets react on this news when they open at 9:30 this morning. But, you know, as a president, you can come out and you can say anything you want. But this idea of extending unemployment benefits, and you got to feel for people who are hurting because they cannot find a job. But there are concerns that this really does kind of foster a culture of dependency when the government keeps on handing out money. And maybe what this country needs is kind of a Manhattan Project to create jobs. You know, the president came out yesterday and created 5 promise zones across the country, which I think a lot of people rightfully see as a good thing. But then Senator Ted Cruz of Texas came out yesterday and said, well, wait a minute, shouldn't the entire country be a promise zone? It's one thing to look at Philadelphia and San Antonio and other cities like that, but what about these small towns across America where a lot of the blue-collar jobs have been shipped overseas? Nobody's getting retrained. Manufacturing has disappeared. It is coming back in some areas, but there's a huge lack of a talented labor pool out there to fill those jobs. You know, let's get people back to work by educating them the right way and creating a playing field where businesses feel like it's fertile ground to hire people and then start business again.
Right. I mean, John, I think what you're saying is it might be the Declaration of Dependence coming here. What can you tell us coming up for Sunday?
We've got a lot to talk about. I think number 1 on our list is going to be Chris Christie, but we're also going to talk a lot about the Gates book with a very good panel we got this weekend. George Will, Bob Woodward, who wrote extensively about the Gates book. We've also got Karl Rove and Juan Williams, and how the White House is falling all over itself to beat back accusations from a defense secretary that President Obama at one time called one of the best defense secretaries that this nation has ever seen. And what about the lengths that they're going to defend Vice President Joe Biden? I covered the White House for 7 years, and I never remember being invited in to a luncheon for a photo op with Bill Clinton to say, hey, Al Gore and I were okay, or with President Bush saying to Dick Cheney, hey, look at us, we're doing well. So, you know, the White House has got a lot of spin here, and it's looking like there's not much transparency. There's a lot of transparency, rather, and it's attempts to try to set the record straight from the White House's point of view.
Wallace took a bad week to take off. Like you have a lot to talk about, John Roberts. We'll watch you on Sunday.
We do. Thanks, Brian.
Check your local listings for Showtime. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John.